broken Kanu's way, and Dahui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?
Hello Arsenal fans, and welcome back to a new episode of Can You Believe It, an Arsenal podcast. And sorry for the delay of this podcast. It's been quite a while since I've been speaking to you about anything Arsenal related. Obviously the Euros is currently going on. There's not a lot of Arsenal news, so I've sort of waited for the right time before I came back and recorded an episode, just so we could talk about something. And there's been a lot that have been going on recently, so at least we have a lot to talk about, so that's good. At least I won't be here for like 5 minutes just talking to you about one name that may or may not be joining Arsenal. But we have some things from inside the club, so Kieran Tierney's new deal, we'll talk about that. Smith Rowe, the bids from Aston Villa, and then obviously the juicy part, the transfer talk. We've got James Maddison, Ben White, and what that means for Saliba, Lokonga, Nuno Tavares, Ramsdale, Onana, Mulder and Gutierrez, who were linked yesterday as well, but they're very brief talk. And then finally, we'll talk some Euros chats. So we'll talk Bukayo Saka and we'll talk Granit Xhaka as well. Obviously, Granit Xhaka is one of the players who could be departing this summer, but I'm recording this on Tuesday, the 29th of June, and Granit Xhaka has just gone through with Switzerland and he got man of the match and he was absolutely incredible. So we'll talk about that, but let's start with Kieran Tierney. So Kieran Tierney has signed a new deal with Arsenal, a new 5-year deal, I believe. It's a really good thing for Arsenal. Tierney is one of our most important players in the squad. He's been fantastic at left back. I don't think we've been good without him. I think he's such an important player in the side. He's ever present under Mikel Arteta. Arteta picks him when he's fit, no matter what. I know he had a few injury issues last year, which was a shame, and obviously both times that he was injured we suffered from it, so it is something that we have to bear in mind. And we'll talk about a potential backup later on coming up, because there's some news about it breaking today basically about a potential backup for Kieran Tierney. But him signing a new deal is just so important for Arsenal. He's one of our most important players, and I think when the last batch of players left, so the Ramseys, the Wilsheres, the Cazorlas, we really lacked players which the fans could really get invested in, and I think Tierney is one of these players where fans just hang their hat on and just think, wow, he's a great player, I really like him, I want to get behind him. It's the same with Saka and Smith Rowe, and we'll talk about Smith Rowe in a bit. I think Tierney is one of those players where a lot of fans just appreciate how he plays. He's such a hard-working player. I think that's why Mikel Arteta loves him as well. He's so passionate as well. I mean, you remember the goals last season he scored against West Brom, against Benfica. His passion in his face was really shown. And I know it doesn't really mean anything if you don't have any quality. Luckily, Tierney does. But when you have that quality and you show a bit of passion, fans can really get behind you. He's a quality left back. I mean, he obviously went to the Euros with Scotland, and it was disappointing for Scotland because they got knocked out in the group stage. But he played 2 games, played against England in a 0-0 draw, and he played against Croatia when they got knocked out. And he was sensational in the game against England. He was really, really good. Him and Robertson were switching, and he kept going down the left flank like we see him doing at Arsenal, and just kept doing amazing crosses. But he was also very good in the tackle as well, and doing some really good last-ditch blocks as well. Scotland's performance on the night was really good, and I thought Billy Gilmour got a lot of the praise on that night, but I think Kieran Tierney just deserved the same amount of praise as well. But Tierney said, he spoke to Arsenal.com, he said, it feels amazing to sign a new deal. Firstly, when the manager came along to me and said, we want to extend your deal, we're so happy with how you've come along. It was just amazing for me to hear because I've worked hard since I joined. I had a hard first season with injuries and COVID, but last season it really picked up for me and the club have been brilliant with me. So I'm more than happy to extend. I'm absolutely delighted. I think the vision of the club, where it wants to go, and the expectations of the club are why I signed. Where I want to be in football is at the top. There's no doubt about it. We're not where we want to be just now, but we're going in the right direction. And then he mentions about how he loves everyone at the club. He loves all the staff, loves all the players, and loves the manager. He says working for Arteta is an absolute joy. So these are all good things you want to hear. Obviously, he's not going to say I didn't want to stay or anything, or I was only staying for the money. But it's just nice to hear as a fan. You hear these things. He's the one player where I genuinely believe him and Arteta get on the best, because I think in every interview I've heard from Tierney, he spoke about how good Arteta is, and Arteta has done the same. And I think a lot of fans obviously do have doubts about Arteta, which is completely understandable when you finished 8th under him and some of the decisions have been questionable. But I think the way Tierney speaks about him in absolute glowing terms is really encouraging. They have a great relationship, and I'm really happy that Tierney is staying now, and it ties down another player that is going to be important in our future. We obviously tied down Xhaka Saka last season, and Martinelli as well, and now we've done Kieran Tierney. But the next part is getting Smith Rowe tied down, which leads on to the Smith Rowe discussion. So Emile Smith Rowe has been the subject of 2 rejected bids from Aston Villa. So the first one was 25 million and the second one was 30 million, both rejected. Now, obviously, Arsenal fans are a bit worried, because why wouldn't you be? Emile Smith Rowe is one of our better players. He's an academy product. We should be doing everything we can to keep him. And I completely understand that. Arsenal are obviously trying to look to tie down Emile Smith Rowe and get him a new contract like they did with Kieran Tierney. And there's a bit of negotiations going on, I think, here, because I think maybe the agent is sensing that he can get a better deal for his client. Now, that's not to say that Aston Villa's bids are not real. They are very much real. I think Aston Villa have had some encouragement. I don't think it's from Arsenal's end, but I think it might be from Emile Smith Rowe's end. But this should be quite an easy solution. I think Emile Smith Rowe signs a contract. I'm quite bullish about it personally, because I think, firstly, if you've heard what Emile Smith Rowe said to the media about Arsenal, you can tell he wants to stay, and there's a love from Emile Smith Rowe at Arsenal. He wants to stay at Arsenal. I think it's clear. I mean, he talked about how he wanted to be a one-club man. He talks about in 2018 how he rejected Barcelona for Arsenal because he was just so happy to be at Arsenal. So, in theory, this should be quite an easy contract to be sorted. But we know sometimes getting these contracts sorted will take a bit of time. I wonder if the pursuit of someone like James Maddison's quality will be something that Emile Smith Rowe's looking at, and he doesn't want to go back into a rotation role, which I completely get. I think he's a really talented player, but I don't think he will, because I think even when Martin Odegaard came in, Emile Smith Rowe was still on the side, and I think you can't just rely on one creative player. You need more than one. And obviously, I know Emile Smith Rowe's looking at it from his side and thinking, well, I want to play week in, week out. If another creator comes in and there's only one number 10 spot, then it's going to find it difficult. But I'm pretty sure that Emile Smith Rowe can play with a creator, if that's James Maddison or someone else. It is worrying that Villa have had some sort of encouragement in terms of must have had some indication that Arsenal have a price, but I think James Benge confirmed on Twitter yesterday that if Arsenal did have a price, it would probably be triple what the bid was rejected, so about 90 million, which is completely fair. And I know he's only got 2 years left on his deal, but I think Arsenal are completely in their right to ask for a lot of money for one of their best players, regardless of how long their contract is for him. But I'm pretty confident that this deal will get done eventually, and I don't think it's something where Arsenal fans need to worry too much. I think if Emile Smith Rowe doesn't sign maybe by the end of next year, then fair enough, you might get worried because we won't get as big of a fee for him. But I think he will be fine. He will sign a new deal. We'll reach a deal. The one thing you can say about Mikel Arteta and how good he is getting new contracts done for players. I mean, he got Saka done, Aubameyang, Balogun, Tierney, Martinelli. Like, these are really big contracts that some of them, when they didn't even look like they were going to sign. So he's really good at convincing players to stay, and I'm pretty confident that he will be able to convince Emile Smith-Rowe to stay and commit his future at Arsenal. I wouldn't worry about the Aston Villa bids. I'm sure they'll be fine. So let's talk about the most interesting part of this podcast, and let's talk about transfers. So a lot has gone on since the few weeks that I haven't been recording, so again, apologies for that, but we have a lot to talk about. And the first target we're going to talk about is James Maddison. He's obviously the most high profile target, if you will. He's probably going to be the one that costs the most money, and I think Arsenal are well in their right to completely target someone of Maddison's quality, but also Leicester are completely in their right to charge a really premium fee for a player which, if they was to join Arsenal, would be a player who you could see closing the gap between Arsenal and Leicester, for example. Maddison will probably cost about 60 to 70 million, if we're being honest. It's a massive fee, and for that you want quality, and he is a really good quality player. I don't think he's elite. I think he's quite just below the level of elite, but I think he's really, really good, and I think he would improve us. I mean, since Maddison joined the league from Norwich, he's created the most chances in the Premier League. I think only Kevin De Bruyne actually is ahead of him. So I think he's a really good creator. We need creativity. He would be a fun signing. It would obviously, again, cost a lot of money, but I think if you want quality, sometimes you might have to pay for it. I know a lot of us have been talking about being smart, and me included, and we'll talk about some more smart transfers when we go further into the podcast. But I think for the most part, I think if you want to improve quickly, this is a way to do it. And if Arsenal have the money, and again, that's debatable, we don't know if Arsenal have the money, it will be difficult to assess James Maddison, and it's sort of linked, well, this position is sort of linked with the next target I'm going to talk about. But Maddison, the player, has been really fantastic, and I think he would improve us. He would be a fun signing. I think it would get a lot of people excited. It would at least make us a bit more fun and create better going forward. I think hopefully that's what Arsenal do in the future, and I hope Arsenal do become a fun side to watch, because I think a lot of the time last season, I think it was pretty difficult to watch Arsenal. A creator is my number one priority, because that's the thing that will move the needle the most for Arsenal. I think if you were to sign a defender, a couple of central midfielders, a backup left back, it's not going to make Arsenal inherently better. But if you were to sign one creator, one midfielder, you might get much better. And I think Arsenal are in that stage now where they need to get better in attack. They need to score more goals, and buying a creator of James Maddison's quality is something that will improve Arsenal. I think Martin Odegaard obviously is going to stay at Real Madrid. I'm gutted about that, because I liked Odegaard a lot, but I think if we decided not to get Odegaard and we brought in someone of James Maddison's quality, and hopefully it is just James Maddison, then I think Arsenal would be better in the long run. He's obviously homegrown as well, which helps with the homegrown quota. So Arsenal are looking at this deal. I think it might be one that we do all the business first, and then we get Maddison right near the end of the window, like Partey last year. But obviously differently to Partey, I think Arsenal can't pay a release clause and leave Leicester in the lurches, we actually have to negotiate with them. So they can't leave it too late. But I think Arsenal have a good opportunity here to try for a player. It would be incredibly ambitious, but I'm just hoping Arsenal can find the cash and find the money and find the sweet spot to get someone like James Maddison. So the next deal we're going to talk about is Ben White, and Ben White is obviously a centre-back for Brighton and England. He's at the Euros at the moment. He hasn't played a minute, but I don't think that was too surprising when you look at how the centre-backs are for England. I think Mings and Cody are ahead of him. I think he was only there as Trent Alexander-Arnold cover, so he wouldn't have gone originally. So let's talk about Ben White, because there's been a lot of discussion about him. Firstly, I think he's a good player. I think he's a really good ball-playing centre-back. I think that's important for Arsenal. I think with David Luiz going, I think Arsenal do need a good ball-playing centre-back. I think he's a good, not elite defender. I think I haven't watched enough of him to know how good of a defender he is, but from the limited knowledge and watching of him, I've seen that he's a pretty decent defender. So, and I think Arsenal are a pretty good defensive side nowadays anyway, and that's quite unbelievable to actually say that Arsenal are a good defensive side. But Ben White, you would assume that his main role and the main reason why he's been brought in is because of his distribution from the back. He also has experience playing at right back and defensive midfield, so there are options there as well. I think where a lot of people are a bit unsure on him is what it means for someone like William Saliba, and also the reported fee. So the reported fee is £50 million, and Arsenal are quite close to getting that fee for Ben White. So that's a lot of money. Now, if you spend 50 million on Ben White and you still have money to sign someone like James Maddison, then do it. If you have those unlimited resources, then you should be able to do it. But if you don't, and you spend 50 million on Ben White and then you can't get other signings that you wanted, then that's disappointing, obviously, and Arsenal would be rightly questioned, because I don't think you can sign a 50 million centre-back when you have a 30 million centre-back that you signed 2 years ago who's probably just as good as Ben White. So William Saliba is obviously going to be the fallout guy here. It makes sense if Ben White was to join and then Rob Holding was to leave, but I don't think that's going to happen. Or Pablo Mari was going to leave and William Saliba went to the left side of the centre-backs. But I just don't see it, and I think Arsenal are going to loan or sell William Saliba this summer if Ben White comes in. So I think it is a bit of a struggle. I like William Saliba. I think we should give him a chance. It's not to say that I think he's an incredible player, but I just don't understand why he hasn't been given a chance at all. Arsenal should be given a chance to a player like this, because if he hadn't joined Arsenal, this would be the type of signing we would be wanting at Arsenal. And I think that's what a lot of people have an issue with, is that not just because he's an incredible player, because he's good and he's probably going to get better, but because he hasn't been given a single minute in an Arsenal shirt. That's why we're worried, that's why we're concerned, that's what we want to happen. So Ben White coming in, I'm fine with. He's a good player. He would improve us. He's an upgrade on David Luiz, who's obviously left the club now. It would make our centre-back options a bit more stable, but it's just I don't want us to spend £50 million and then loan and sell Saliba, and it also be an issue with Arsenal potentially not being able to sign a creator, because for me that's the priority as a creator. But I'm fine with Ben White, and if he joins, you back him, you obviously support him, and hopefully he's a great signing for Arsenal. But it's right to question it at this point. I think it will happen. I think it's quite close. It's not as close as two other deals that I'm going to talk about today, but I think he is going to be a signing that we potentially have. The next signing I'm going to talk about is Albert Sambi Lokonga. So he's very close to joining Arsenal. Apparently, Arsenal have actually raised the bid. So they had 2 bids rejected in the £15 million or euros range, but they've increased it to €17.5 million, which looks like it could be accepted. Lokonga is not training with Anderlecht now, so it looks like this deal will happen. And it's a really good signing. Firstly, he's a really good age profile. He's 21 years old, which is really, really encouraging. He's a bit of a Partey type in terms of he's got good ball progression, not as good as someone like Xhaka, for example, but it's good. He's strong in the tackle. He could be a good backup for Partey, and Partey obviously had some injury issues last year, and I think Arsenal experienced a drop-off when he wasn't in the side. When he was in the side, Arsenal looked much more comfortable, and I think when he wasn't, you were relying on Xhaka and Ceballos or El Neni, and it just wasn't really that exciting. I think Lokonga has a lot of talent, and I would be really encouraged to see him at Arsenal. It looks like it's going to happen. I think Thierry Henry has been putting good words in for us, because I think Lokonga was, I think, maybe in a Belgium squad recently, and Thierry Henry's been speaking to him about it. So we've been putting in a good word. It looks like Lokonga might be one of our first signings, which is really encouraging. So Arsenal fans, get those flight trackers out. Track where he is. We'll find him somehow. But he's an exciting player, and what I've liked about this transfer window especially is that Arsenal have been looking at good age profiles for players, and I think Arsenal haven't always done that in the past. I think Arsenal have been guilty of trying to sign older players and it not working out, and I think that's always really, really worrying, especially when you get the types of like Willian, Socrates, etc. But Arsenal are looking at good age profiles now. If Lokonga doesn't work at Arsenal, we could sell him for money, some money. At least it wouldn't be letting him go for free or us paying him off to go. And Arsenal need to be doing these type of deals. I know Guendouzi and Torreira were a bit of a miss for Arsenal. Guendouzi because of his attitude, and Torreira because of his homesickness, but I think those are the type of deals you do, and I think fans actually appreciate these deals a bit more than other deals as well. I really like a gem that's come from a league that's not quite known, and a player that you could see develop, and it looked like quite smart business. Arsenal obviously used to do it loads back in the day, but now it's not really something we've done for a while. I know we've done it recently with someone like Martinelli and even Guendouzi, like I mentioned, but I think this is a type of deal that I would be quite encouraged to do, and it looks like it's going to happen, so I'm quite pleased it's going to happen, and I can't wait to see him on board. So the next 4 transfers I'm going to talk about are kind of lumped into one, but I think the first one I'll talk about is Nuno Tavares. He's a left back from Benfica, and I think Arsenal are looking at him to come in for about under £10 million, which is really encouraging. It looks like it's going to happen, and it looks like we've kind of struck a deal. I think a lot of fans are worried about attitude issues, and it's not something I know about, so if it has, then obviously that's something we'll probably learn later down the line. From what I saw of a little chart of him, he looks pretty promising. I know a lot of Benfica fans have said he's average, but I think sometimes a player can leave a club and then experience a bit of an upturn in form when they join another club. I don't think it's always you leave one club and you're instantly going to be bad at another club. Some players just don't fit some clubs, or they've outstayed their welcome. And I think Arsenal could be a good destination for Tavares, and it looks like it's going to happen. It looks like he's going to be on the plane soon, and another signing we're going to confirm. And it's good to get these sort of deals done quickly and efficiently, because it's important that we got a backup left back. Tierney's not going to play every minute, and because of his injury issues, like I spoke earlier, but this is a really good signing, and I think, I know a lot of people will be doubting it because of the attitude issues that I mentioned earlier, but I think this is just something that will be encouraging for us. So hopefully we sign him and get the deal done as quickly as possible. But the other three that I want to talk about, two I'll kind of lump into one. So it's Mulder, I think, from Sassuolo, and Gutierrez from Real Madrid de Castilla. And I think both of them have been linked as potential options. I think Gutierrez, who's a left back from Real Madrid Castilla, won't be coming now because of Nuno Tavares, and it looks like that's going to happen. I think Mulder is another option as a right back potentially, but I think right back might be something we leave quite late. He looks like a good player for Sassuolo, and again, all these players are really the right age profile. Again, I haven't watched them personally that well, so I'm not going to be able to tell you how good they are, so please bear in mind that I'm not the expert. I don't watch every single league, but from what I can tell in terms of age profile, they fit the purpose, and hopefully, especially with Mulder, we can get that done. But Gutierrez, I don't think will get done now because of Nuno Tavares. But the last one I want to talk about is Ramsdale, and this is a keeper that's been linked for about 20 million up to like 35 million, so it has been ridiculous fees. This is someone that I really don't want to join. Now, I want to talk about this a bit more than the other two that I've just talked about, mainly because I think Ramsdale has an effect just because he's homegrown that Arsenal want to sign him. I don't think Arsenal should sign him. I think Arsenal should sign Onana and then try and get Leno to stay for another season and then bring in a homegrown keeper. I know it's important for Arsenal to have a homegrown keeper, but I just don't think Aaron Ramsdale is that type of keeper. I don't think he would be number one. Let's rest assured, firstly, I don't think he'll be number one, but watching him for Sheffield United, I just don't think he's Premier League standard. I think he's a Championship keeper at this present moment in time. He's young, so there is a chance that he develops further, but I just don't see him as a Premier League standard keeper right at this present moment of time. If he was to join, I think it would cost a lot of money, and I don't think Arsenal should be paying a lot of money for what's essentially a backup keeper. If you think he's going to be a first choice keeper, then go for it, but I just don't know why we would go for it when you have someone like Andre Onana who is available for a decent price. I understand that Onana's got the ban, but I think maybe speak with Leno, get him to stay for another season, and then sell him next summer if he's so insistent on going. He doesn't have to sign a new contract or anything. I think Onana makes the most sense. It's a quite an efficient deal. He would be number one, you'd think, or at least pushing to be number one. I would be happy with Onana. He's really good with distribution as well. I just don't think Ramsdale has those qualities, and I think the main reason why we are after Aaron Ramsdale is mainly because of his homegrown status, and I just don't believe that's really something we should be looking at. I think if we're going to sign a keeper, it should be someone of Onana's quality, and the price has been quoted for him. It's just perfect. So do that, Arsenal. Don't do the other deal. Right, so I'm going to round off this podcast by talking about the Euros and talking about two players Arsenal related. Now, firstly, before I actually get into the talks about these players, I think let's just talk about the Euros in general. When yesterday was an absolute crazy day. You had Croatia 3, Spain 5, and then France 3, Switzerland 3, and Switzerland going through on penalties. What a crazy day yesterday. I mean, firstly, you had Spain, who were 3-1 up against Croatia, and then Croatia came back for 3-3 to take it to extra time, and then they looked gassed out, and it finished 5-3 to Spain. Spain performed well, and I think they're actually creating a lot of chances. Luis Enrique's actually been a better manager than I give him credit for, so credit him and credit Spain for looking decent. But then you had the game afterwards, the France-Switzerland game, and my God. So Switzerland took the lead with Severovic from Benfica, and then had a penalty. Ricardo Rodriguez missed, and then soon as that penalty miss, France just sparked into life and scored 2 really good goals. The first one from Benzema was lovely. The touch, he sets himself up to get away from the defender to score, was brilliant. And the second one was really good. I don't know why Griezmann just doesn't give it a tap into Benzema, but he chips the keeper and then Benzema manages to head in. The third one from Pogba was incredible. He was sensational on the day. And you're thinking 3-1, France is going to cruise through. This is the quality of France. And then Switzerland come back and score 2 really good goals. And the third goal, all Granit Xhaka, and it was an exceptionally weighted pass. It split the defence wide open and the forward scores it, and it's really, really good. And I think Xhaka was rightfully man of the match. I don't think he's had an incredible tournament, but he's burst into life in that game and he was exceptional. It's funny because he misses the next game now with suspension, which is a shame for Switzerland, because when you play that well, like Xhaka did, you want him in the side and you want him in the side all the time. I think he just looked like he was pinging balls left, right and centre all game. I mean, he pinged the ball to the forwards after the third goal and it looked like it was going to go in, but he had a really bad touch. Xhaka was just controlling things, dictating things. It was a real battle between him and Pogba and if France won, then I'm sure Pogba would have rightfully got man of the match. But I think Xhaka was fantastic, and I know he's going. He looks like he's going to go to Roma. I think he was talking about how he's not speaking Italian yet to the media, so he wants to go to Roma. So there's no chance really of him staying. I think fair enough, we're going to get some money for him, which I don't think we would have. I wonder if we can ask for a bit more now after what happened last night. But I think he was exceptional yesterday and I really enjoyed watching him, and credit Switzerland, and he's now burst into life and hopefully Switzerland can go far for Xhaka's case. But the other player I want to talk about is Saka. Now, I'm recording this, like I mentioned earlier, Tuesday 29th of June. If you don't know that, as an English fan, it's the day of England versus Germany, and David Ornstein in the last 20 minutes has actually reported that Saka is actually set to start against Germany, which is great. And the reason why he's set to start is because of how good he performed against the Czech Republic. He was fantastic against the Czech Republic, got man of the match like Xhaka did last night. He wasn't involved in any goals or assists, but he was one of the reasons why he drove us forward. The first goal, or the only goal of the game, which Sterling scored, was all Saka setting it up with his positivity and his driving forward. And he got it to Grealish, and Grealish crossed it into Sterling. Saka was actually quite close to scoring himself. But for him to do that, he just takes any game like a duck on water. Everything's in his own stride. He's been fantastic for Arsenal. And I think for England now, he's showing players and showing people, actually, how good he is. And I think a lot of fans doubted his selection and they wanted Jadon Sancho to start, but I think with how good Saka played, I think he completely justified his inclusion, and I was really pleased for him. And now he's going to be rewarded with another start against Germany, so it's good. Hopefully he performs well and hopefully he goes through, because England have a really good chance in this tournament. They're on the favourable side of the draw. If they beat Germany tonight, and really hope they do, then England have a really good chance to actually go quite deep into the tournament. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully Saka performs well. Maybe he can get a goal. It would really push him forward. But I'm really pleased for him. That performance against Czech Republic was fantastic. So that's the end of the podcast. Thank you for joining me. I've had some technical issues with this podcast. So in terms of, I actually had to record this. This is my second recording, an hour-long recording, which is pretty annoying, but it's completely fine. Arsenal seem to be making some movement in the transfer market. I think Lokonga and Tavares will probably be the first ones that join. At least we got Tierney signed to a new deal, so it's looking bright, but there's still a long way to go into a new season. But I'll be back with you to talk about more transfers and more players in the near future. But until then, come and you Gunners.
Well, it's broken Kanu's way, and Hui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?